The second challenge of ECG is accounting for revenue collected. From the first point, it is evident that those to account for the revenue by PwC, it became evident that the simple directive by PwC and the President of Ghana for the company to operate a single account to ensure visibility of total collection and onward transmission to one account. That problem, known to all players earlier to the President to highlight the same issues but got no results.
What makes the Commission think it will get results from the ministers has rendered the PwC to the extent that it cannot sanction utilities that are flagrantly abusing regulation and have become simply ungovernable. In its letter to the minister, ECG is PwC is literally begging for transparency from ECG and proposing policy reforms to address regulatory failures. Now, why have new revenue measures proved ineffective? For over a decade, ECG's poor revenue performance has been attributed to managerial, financial, and technical inefficiencies. In recent times, the political settlement has nursed and sustained the managerial efficiencies, which have in turn worsened the financial and technical challenges of the company. Two prime examples of these political settlement manifestations include: one, the introduction of the ECG3 to replace its internally developed app under the pretext that the in-house app could not be improved to deliver efficiency.
ECG's internal engineers could not have RTR response to ACEP below, so we sent an RTR and it was a response. The ECG app, which existed before the introduction of the management platform services, was deployed and implemented in-house for revenue collection. We would like to clarify that no payments were made to any other service provider,
and take note of the following as well. However, the system had varying forms of deficiencies relating to safeguarding the revenue and inability to perform balance management. And the funny part comes. In addition, the in-house application did not meet the regulatory framework
as prescribed by Payment Systems and Services Act. To put it in another way, ECG did not have the requisite capacity to operate a payment system to provide a payment service without a payment systems license issued by DOJ. The alternative was to partner a licensed payment systems provider like Capital Limited. End of quote. That was ECG's response to us. Consequently, ECG had to outsource the development and maintenance of its payment system to Capital. According to a contract received from ECG, the total cost for the design and development of the platform is about 171.8 million Ghana cedis. Between November 2022 and December 2023, the cumulative service charge was over 100 million Ghana cedis. In addition, Capital will be paid 0.95% of all revenues collected as service charges. At the time of contract execution, which was March 2024, 75 million Ghana cedis have been paid to Capital on the framework costs. This information in the contract contradicts information Capital itself communicated on its proceeds from the agreement. On March 28, 2024, just 8 days after the contract was executed, Capital published the cost of developing the payment systems at $25 million, which is around 350 million Ghana cedis, of which they confirmed 1 million Ghana cedis had been paid. Now, when you compare
the information from the contract that ECG gave us, as well as HAPTEL's account of what the cost of the platform should be, there are certain variations. When you look at framework development, the contract supplied by ECG is quoting 171.8 million Ghana cedis. HAPTEL accounts is 300 million across the board. Then mobile money and card scheme providers, the contract is stating 0. There are also additional charges for transfers to ECG, which is 0.85% of total revenue as indicated in the contract. ECG abandoned the internal capacity to build and maintain a payment system for an transaction through a sole source contract. Intriguingly, PLC, which should have accounted for such expenditures in the tariff methodology, is now PLC's letter that is sent to the minister. At the time it is disbursed to ECG, the main portion of revenues collected before the balance is disbursed to ECG. This retention of unspecified amounts from all revenues collected and efforts under the IMF program to bring visibility to ECG's total revenues. The second is exchange rate manipulations, handling of the exchange rate for its transactions. In many instances, the exchange rate reported by ECG to the cash waterfall rate manipulation created a net exchange loss of about 6.5 billion Ghana cedis in 2022, which is up from 623. ACEP, through the RTI process, requested historical exchange rates used by ECG for its operation, stating in an August 2024 response that, and I quote, "The requested information is quite extensive and will require some time to compare. All efforts are being made to put together the information requested for submission. We acknowledge your fault since May 2024. This level of manipulation undermines the ability of ECG to pay value chain and redirect public resources away from legitimate expenditure programs. What are the implications of all of this that I'm talking about? The growing form that can undermine the progress made after the domestic and international debt restructuring to keep Ghana solvent. With the level of debt accumulation and the intervention required of the state, it is just and gas suppliers and transporters demanding payments. The pressure on the government to sacrifice social investment is high. Already, some IPPs have begun targeting payment guarantees to pay some of their outstanding debts. Car Power, for example, has drawn down about $112 million to settle the debt owed by the OCTP partners, have an outstanding balance of about $400 million to be settled by government. The government now needs to urgently replenish or stay parents with the OCTP partners, failing which subsequent drawdowns will trigger an attack on the World Bank guarantee on the project. To conclude, the political lethargy to enable ECG to deliver value to the people of Ghana continues to hurt Ghana's budget and by extension, development efforts. The Energy Sector Recovery Program estimates that the realized power sector shortfalls between 2019 and 2023 were about $8.25 billion. This is sheer waste of public resources that cannot be saved. In light of the above preliminary comments, ACEP recommends the following. 1. PLC should assume its regulatory functions over ECG. Specifically, the Commission should implement aggressive measures to have visibility
over how much revenue is collected that may be undermining the sustainability of the sector. Two, PURC should immediately audit the HAPTEL contract and verify all the payments made to the company to assure value for money for the country and clarify discrepancies in cash values reported by HAPTEL and ECD. Effective and transparent management that will salvage the company and its attendant fiscal burden on the state and the people of Ghana. Thank you very much for the audience. So I'll take a few questions and then we'll be out of here. So the team will send around copies, the few copies that we have, and then yes.
Knowing who we are, that there are no people who are run and speak institution, but then they have a lot of people to say that they will never do. I wish you know that this is the knowledge of themselves. If they don't,
Thank you. Any other?
Thank you very much. My name is Wesley for Joy News. I want to understand, based on the narrative review and the regulation, especially in West African supermarkets, most of them are announced to private partnerships, and you can run efficiently to require prices for all the electricity as it's being realized. Money gets easily have been given in losses has been leading in the management of waste. You also have to provide waste for the years. Is it high time for all these assessments to be so far? Thank you.
All right.
ACEP, we put out engineering power, has the audacity to enter into is ACEP consideration rather than it's ACEP considering proposal that carry their own power.
All right, so I think I'll take this three, then we can go around again. So is it possible for them to step aside? I think we have over time allowed failure in managing our tenure after tenure of managers and boards are not held accountable. The closest you can get is to be responsible, but they should be replaced by more efficient and transparent managers who will be able to turn around the company. That is the ask we are asking for. Is it time to consider strategic partnership for this? I think that has always been ACEP's position, especially based on the experience of government failing to regulate itself. Right? So the commercial regulator is regulating a government entity in the same space. And that we have all seen the challenges that come with that approach. Now, that was unfortunately part of what can be done. But in making those calls, I think the key thing here is calling for transparency that injustices hiding in the shadows, trying to privatize the asset of the nation for their own benefits. Some form of private sector participation in ECG is the way to go, because can you run a taxi driver running sales for you, and every time the taxi driver brings only 43%, that is exactly what we are asking. And government has proven that it can regulate itself. So their own power. That's a very interesting question. But I mean, the point here to be made is that ECG remains a strategic asset for the country. They have never really is maximizing the technical turnaround of the company to make it more efficient, run it like a business. All over the world, power is a business, right? It is only here that we run power in politics. And like I always say, when you run power in politics, you will get darkness at some point. Right. So what we are asking for really is that let's fix the managerial issues.
Complain for years, still the same.
Yes, but
if I generate power, you want to.
That's right. It will mean that there has to be an arrangement where they will lease their infrastructure to the state. It's the same thing that we are asking for. That instead of ACG to it, it's the same thing we are talking about, right? Because they will still use the same network, the distribution network, and they will have to pay for it. And because ECG is and its assets are still national assets of security in during the previous was a welcome idea by everybody. Next set of questions.
Yeah, my name is Michael. Everything is African. This is a revenue organization has decided to increase the revenue and revenue has I think recently we were told that on the monthly basis, revenue just 100 with the digitalization that I've seen now you as the president in so your call for the solution or dismissal of the entire ACP management board, somebody to say that you are only facing what probably have seen the ultra maybe and the whole cases that are not looking at the other area that I use more to I don't know. And also, let me introduce this one. We are seeing the challenges in the energy sector. But the two major political parties, NPP and NDC, have put out their manifesto which seems to be facing the power sector. From that distribution,
that only gives you an average of 43% collection rate. It's not something we can applaud. To 800 million in real praise. But what were you required to collect to meet the payment obligations in the balance sheet? That is about 2 billion guarantees. I can give you a rundown of the collection rates: 10%, 41%, 42%. That is the state of the collection that ECB wants us to celebrate them. So it's not because there is the effort of ECB, but the data is showing. I hope that answers this. We will hold a forum where we look at all the manifesto policies in the energy sector, or where the gaps are in terms of solving the problems, right? And then there's a question on the lines of gas supply challenge, because it was earlier communicated that the OCTP are closing shop for maintenance. I think actually it was supposed to end this week, and ACG assured us that they are made on